This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, I think we're gonna go forward if that's okay. So once again, and for everyone who's just joined, welcome to this workshop, which is being run jointly between Community Links Bromley and Blueprint for All. Once again, my name is Dawn Muspratt, and I'm here with Blueprint for All, and my colleague Steve Smith is here from Community Links Bromley. So this is a workshop into the National Lottery Community Fund COVID-19 grant giving scheme, and we are going to be running through the criteria for the funding, what it could be used for, what type of organisations can apply, and what the timeline is. We've allowed time for questions at the end, but you can also put questions in the chat as we go along if that would be helpful as well. So just a quick bit of housekeeping there. So we are expecting this session to last about 1 hour. If you wouldn't mind muting yourself, please, during the presentation, that would be great. As I said, we can have questions at the end, which could either be done by posting your question in the chat or raising your hand. As we said, the session will be recorded and we're going to post it on our website so that people who aren't able to make today can catch up. And we will also make this slide pack available. So just by way of overview, the National Lottery Community Fund has awarded £237,500 to Community Links Bromley to provide grants for local voluntary and community groups in Bromley and Lewisham to deliver activities that specifically support communities through the COVID-19 crisis and to further realise equality, diversity and inclusion ambitions. And as you know, we're pretty clear that almost everyone we work with and everyone that you guys work with will be doing that, but just to say that that is a key part of it. The application process will be accessed through an online portal called Awards Force, and I'm sure some of you perhaps have got experience of that. But again, if not, we can provide some support there. We will provide grants of up to £20,000 for grant recipients, and that is for organisations which are formally structured. If you're an unincorporated association or organisation, then you can apply for up to £10,000. The giving programme opened for applications on the 20th of January and they close on the 14th of February. So there's just about another 2 weeks to go. We're going to be allocating funding on a rolling basis as we go along. So we would really strongly advise everyone gets an application in for the first round. However, should there be any uncommitted funding, then we will reopen the fund and run a second round. But just really stress, you know, don't rely on that. If you want funding, then go for the first round, please. Generally speaking, grants will be paid in instalments with amounts up front, at the halfway point and on completion, and that will be subject to progress made. Now, critically, all projects must be completed by the 28th of October this year. So it's a short, sharp fund, really. The main priorities of the funding are to support organisations from the London boroughs of Bromley and Lewisham to continue to deliver their vital services to people and communities affected by COVID-19. As I've said, the grant funding is up to £20,000, and this funding can be used to deliver projects, and it can include funding for salaries and overheads. It's to support individuals, so people who you work with who have been most at risk of COVID-19, but also organisations who have been negatively impacted by the pandemic. Our local priorities include older people, disability groups, including mental health and people with long-term health conditions, people from diverse heritage backgrounds, domestic violence, vulnerable families and children, and people who have been pushed into crisis through the pandemic. We can also support organisations which connect communities, so you don't necessarily have to be facing an individual facing organisation delivering services directly. You could be an organisation which helps connect communities and coordinate things like volunteering and capacity building. Steve, was there anything you wanted to add there? Oh,
I think you've covered most of it there. Those are the priority areas. And certainly if other organisations support volunteers generally across the board and they're building capacity, then that will be eligible certainly as well.
fantastic, thank you. So I'm going to just keep rattling through this, and I hope I'm not going too fast. I'm aware that I'm a very fast speaker. So in terms of groups and eligible groups and organisations, the aim of this fund is to make it as widely applicable as possible. So it is open to eligible organisations, but you must be working in or supporting communities within the boroughs of Bromley and Lewisham. You can be a charitable incorporated organisation, a charitable trust, cooperative society, community benefit society, community interest company limited by shares or by guarantee, company limited by guarantee, and you can also be an unincorporated association or organisation. And if you are, then you can only go for up to £10,000. And obviously, when we say up to, you don't have to go for the full amounts. You can go for any amount below there. In terms of the eligibility criteria, and this will be we'll be checking this really at the point of application. You must have one or more of the organisation structures that we've just gone through there. You must have a minimum of 2 unrelated trustees or directors. You will need to hold the grant in a UK-based bank or building society, which is in the name of the organisation. And again, that has at least 2 unrelated people to approve transactions and withdrawals. The activities need to be legally charitable and predominantly benefit Bromley or Lewisham Borough residents. And if you cross over between one or the other, kind of just plump for the one where you have the majority of your service users or people that you work with. You need to have an appropriate governing document which confirms that the organisation is operating on a not-for-profit basis. And you must comply with the National Lottery safeguarding policy and appropriate checks. Now, if you don't have a safeguarding policy and procedure, then let us know at the earliest opportunity and we will help you both in terms of getting that policy in place and also in training to ensure that you're working to that policy. We'll need a copy of your organisation's accounts from the most recent financial year. We'll need a complete budget breakdown and for you to provide the details of the fact that you work in Bromley and Lewisham. Anything at all that you've got on that will certainly strengthen your application. And just to be clear, the things that we can't fund and won't fund are individuals, statutory or public bodies, or organisations which exist solely to make a profit with no community benefit. I will just keep going, but Steve, pipe up if you think I'm going too fast or something's not clear.
Just on that, if you just take that slide back, I was just going to just mention, as Dawn has said, any issues around safeguarding policies, we can certainly help you there. We've got experience on doing that. Hopefully you've all got safeguarding policies in place already. There's a point there, that's a penultimate point, about providing any details of working in Bromley and Lewisham. If you have a track record, let us know, because it's good to know that you're already in the borough and you know who your beneficiaries and users are. But that's not excluding new organisations or organisations who work on a more national basis and want to actually provide a service in Bromley or Lewisham. But what you will need to do is tell us how you're going to do that, how you know there is a need and there is a need for that particular service. So we would probably want a little bit more information on there as about how you're going to address those needs from, if you're based outside of the borough or nationally. So that's why that question is in there. Thanks, Dawn. Thank you.
So in terms of the application process, as I said, the applications opened on the 20th of January. We're using AwardsForce, which is an online platform to be used for applications. And again, if you're going to find that difficult, then contact us straight away and we'll see what help we can give you. The applications will close at midnight on the 14th of February. And you will need to attach any accompanying documents at the same time as you make the application. And once again, just to reiterate that if we don't allocate all of the funding on this first round, we will reopen the application process, but don't rely on that. So really go for the first round. We will be carrying out due diligence checks to make sure that you are an organisation that can be funded. So based on the information that we've just covered. From there, we'll be allocating the applications to decision-making panels, and the panel will be panel for each borough will be comprised of either Community Links Bromley or Blueprint for All senior staff and trustees, council officers and volunteer community representatives. And obviously we're ensuring that any community representatives won't be applying for the fund themselves, so there's no conflict of interest there. We're expecting the panel to make a decision within 2 weeks of the panel meeting, and we will provide you with notification of that outcome then. If you're successful, a grant agreement outlining the conditions which apply, including how the work will be monitored and the funding accounted for, will be included in that notification. And if you're unsuccessful, we will also give you feedback. From there, we will expect you to sign and return the grant agreement, and payment will be made at that point. Steve, is that okay for me to just carry on?
I think so. I think it might be on the next slide, but because this is quite a tight round, we need to have the offer letters back from you if you are successful by 27th of April at the very latest.
Yeah.
Because the project has to be concluded by the 28th of October. So the guidance is very clear that it is 6 months after the start or no later than 28th of October. So that's why we're on quite a tight deadline on this one. So those are the key dates. Get the offer. If you've got an offer letter, get it back signed
right away
by the 27th at the latest, but your project must also be completed by the 28th of October. And that is, there's a flow chart there of how we see the process.
Yeah, thank you for just confirming that. Yeah, so the process flow chart here, which you'll be able to look at in the slide pack afterwards, just talks us through what that process is. If you're deemed not eligible at the due diligence test, then we will let you know at that earliest opportunity. Otherwise, if you are eligible, you pass the diligence test, your application will go to a panel. The panel will make a decision. We will notify you of the outcome. An offer will be made and an award for which you will need to confirm, as Steve just said there, by the 27th of April. And then we will have a series of monitoring returns with the project ending by the 28th of October. So if you are successful, first payment will be made on receipt of the grant acceptance letter. We'll ask you for a progress update at around the halfway point in the project, which will trigger the next payment. Now, this is assuming that this is a service delivery project. I believe if it's a capital project, which is a one-off cost, that would be paid for and settled in one go. We will require monitoring and reporting, including an end of grant report. And it's critically important that we can show what the benefit of this money was to the communities in Lewisham and Bromley. On receipt of the final monitoring report, which demonstrates successful completion of the project, that will trigger the final payment. And once again, I feel like we've reiterated this 100 times, so I apologise, but just to confirm, projects must be completed by the 28th of October this year. And alongside the funding, we're also able to offer development support and business mentoring. So it's not compulsory, but it is available, and we really encourage organisations to take that up because it can really help in terms of your longer term ambition. So we're through to any questions. Steve, is there anything before we open it up for any questions? Is there anything else there that you wanted to cover?
I don't think so. I think we've covered most of it there. We're getting a few questions through. I've tried to answer them. People don't the longevity, why it needs to be completed by the 28th of October. That's because the conditions of the grant we've got. There is no leeway. It's not our choice. We appreciate it's a tight timeline, but those are the constraints that we've been given by the National Lottery. Any monies that are not spent by then have to be returned. So there is no leeway, and it's not because of the want of not wanting to do it, but because that's the terms and conditions that we've been given the money to distribute.
Shall we? What's the best way to go through these questions? Shall we take them from the very top, Steve? Shall I?
I think we may have done some of them already. Yeah, if it's capital, if it's capital again, if you are going to spend money on capital, you can. Again, this is very much going back to the guidance. This is much around impacting on people or groups that have been affected through COVID. So most of it, we imagine, will be around activities which are actually directly impacting on those people. If you're involved in capital projects, then you're going to have to demonstrate how that capital then reflects on the users. If it allows you to then run an activity, that may be okay. If you are going to go for capital again, like you would normally, do a tendering process to make sure that you are getting best value for money, that you can actually exclude the outliers who might be high in cost or low in quality, so that there is at least a paper trail there, so that we can see, when we look at the monitoring, we can see that you've gone through a proper process in order to acquire those services and those equipment, that it's been done in the correct manner. So please do think about getting at least 3 quotes for that type of work, which, as I say, will help you make the right decisions as well. And it's what you do at home. So hopefully you do it in your own organizations as well.
Great. We've got a question there on if we're from Samantha, if we're an infrastructure charity, do we have to identify set projects we will use the money for, or can we say it's for core costs to help the work that we do in Bromley?
In that regard, I think it's because you are an infrastructure and you are helping. This is a young people, children and young people who have been impacted throughout COVID, and I think that is fine if you can show that where that support is going through the infrastructure, then I think that's perfectly acceptable.
Perfect. We have a question here around can applicants submit other supporting documents if they want to, as far along with their application? Steve, that's probably one for you, because you've got the best knowledge of the.
Yeah, the portal, which we've used numerous times on other grant schemes, and it's always worked very, very well, does ask for particular documents. It will ask for accounts, and it will ask for certain policies and what have you. So it will automatically ask you, and you will be able to upload the documents that you need to upload. It will have all the documents that are necessary.
Yeah, but basically you can't upload additional documents.
Well, what would you want to upload? I mean, it'd be useful to get an
annual
example
report, an annual report, perhaps.
Well, there's no reason why you couldn't put a link, a link into something. If you wanted to highlight an annual report or something, you could put a link in one of your returns. Because I think some of the boxes, we try to limit them to 250 words. Because I know sometimes there's a balance between getting too much information, because we have got quite a few questions, and people have got to read through these. So we want to make sure that people have enough opportunity to put the main details of the project, the aims, who are going to benefit in there, but without going into long reams of description that people have got to get through. But if you think there was more you want to say, I think if you can put a link in to an annual report or something, that should be okay to do.
Perfect. And just to say that we have got drop-in sessions on Wednesday, the 9th of February. Again, we'll put links out with these with this slide deck, where people can book a 15-minute slot. And the idea is that you should have your kind of worked up application. And if you need help running through it, or you have particular questions, then we can work with you to kind of really shape your application and give you the best chance of success.
I mean, I've got some more questions coming through here. Can we use to pay salaries? Yes, if the salaries are directly for that project, which is going to benefit those priority groups. Can the capital be spent on things like equipment? Yes, again, but you will need to show that it is part of that project which is impacting on those priority groups. So I think it's really important to focus on the actual grant scheme. It is around those groups that have been impacted, especially through COVID. So everything you say and all your projects have got to relate back to that. And that's really, really important. If your project isn't going to relate to those groups or relate back to those COVID negative impacts, then you may struggle. So that's key. And I think someone said where's the link to apply? I think our project page at Community Links Bromley, we have got it's on our project page, it's on our grants page. So you should be able to find it there quite easily. Blueprint for All have also got it highlighted on their website as well. And it all leads through to the same portal. So either way is absolutely fine.
Yeah, I'll just see if I can get some links in the chat.
I think someone's asking about names of trustees. You have 24. Do you want all the names listed? I will have to go and check back on that. It may well be we just want the main officers. But I will check that and get back to you on that one.
Steve, if I could come in there.
Oh, yeah, it's Christopher here.
The answer to that is no. You don't need to list 23. The purpose of that is it's around the due diligence process. So what we need to be able to demonstrate, or what you need to be able to demonstrate, is that you have independent trustees, that the trustees aren't related. So, for example, if I had a charity called Evans Incorporated and all the trustees were called Mr. Evans, then I think that would lead to a certain amount of suspicion. So they need to be independent of one another. So 2 or 3 is sufficient. And you also need to verify those for the purposes of the bank statements as well. So it's about the authorization in terms of who can take decisions in relation to disposal of financial resources within your organization. Just another point in relation to that about the due diligence process. The due diligence process is important, and it's in the process that the lottery have outlined for us. I suspect, and one of those is that you're required to send a bank statement within 3 months. You can send a redacted statement, and obviously there may be transactions in there you don't want to reveal, but you do need to send a statement within 3 months. What's happened previously when we've run similar schemes is people have often sent bank statements, but they've been outside of that time frame. What will happen in this case is you will be, if that happens, you will be asked to resubmit documents. But then if they're not forthcoming, unfortunately, we won't be in a position to forward those applications to the panels for decision making. So it's not, if you miss it the first time, you will be contacted and advised of that. And there will obviously be an opportunity for you to rectify that. But clearly the time scale in relation to this is quite tight. Sorry to interrupt, Thomas.
That's okay, thank you. And we've got some questions here around payment instalment dates. if we are, if the project is having 3 payments, which is what we are assuming, then it would be, the first payment would be essentially upfront, the second would be midpoint, and the third would be at the conclusion of the project, once we've had the monitoring report. Now, if that third payment would prove problematic, then you would need to let us know, if it would mean that you couldn't fund the whole project, then because you couldn't wait for that funding to come in, then you would need to let us know, and we'll agree with you how we will make any payments. There is a question there on if it's a new account, do we still need annual accounts? So I think that we will need annual accounts if it's an existing organisation that's been going for more than 12 to 18 months. Steve will definitely be able to correct me if I'm wrong there. If you are a brand new organisation, then you'll just need to state that in the application so that we know that you don't have annual accounts.
I just want to talk about the grant. I mean, what we're aiming to do is primarily the idea is to give 50% upfront, and then 40% in the middle, and then the remaining 10% at the end.
Oh, thank you.
That's the way that the grant will be split.
Sorry, could you just say that again, those percentages? I heard 10% at the end. What was the first?
50,
yeah,
40 at the midpoint, and then 10 at the end.
Great, thanks.
We often find that providing a little incentive to tell us what's happened for that remaining 10% pays dividends, just to make sure that we get everything back and are able to report back to the National Lottery, because it's quite important that we're able to tell them, about the success of the projects, because it helps us, try and leave them more money in the future.
I can see a question there from Passion for helping and supporting homeless, I think it is, saying that you have a fairly new bank account. I think that the ideal thing is if you were to come along to one of the drop-in sessions, then we can discuss with you what evidence you're able to show of the service that you provide, and how long your organisation has been operating for. Okay, so we have a question here, Steve, around what proof, if any, would we require for the 2 unrelated signatories? Is it okay for reference to this to be made in the Constitution? Because if they've got online transactions, there isn't a kind of form.
I think that should be okay. I mean, if that goes into the application form, that'd be part of our due diligence. If there's issues, we can always get back to people and discuss that with them on a one-to-one basis. But I think, if that's the reality of the situation, we need to make sure that it's all above board. And if we can do that, then that should be fine. We don't want to make it more prescriptive and onerous than it needs to be. And I think we need to have a little bit of, we know that there will be big organizations who can do this, and there will be smaller groups, who need a little bit more support. So we're happy to look at that. But we'll see what we can work our way around those.
Fantastic. And there's definitely one for you, Steve. Do we have a view on matched funding?
As long as it's not double funding. I mean, I think if this is adding to what you're trying to do, enables you to do more and add value, then I think that's fine. If it's paying for the same thing, then no. I mean, that would be the view I think we would take there. There's one question here about what date's money released. I'm asking, as we only have till October. As I say, once you get the offer letter back, if you're successful, then we will endeavour to get that first tranche, that first instalment out to you as soon as possible. Then the second one will come at the midpoint, again, once we've got some interim monitoring, and the final payment, certainly by the end of October, once we get that final monitoring report for you. So the timelines are very much down to you. The sooner you start your project, the sooner we can get you the money, and the sooner you can start spending it and get those projects up and running. But those, as I say, the 28th of October is a deadline that we're unable to move, because that is pretty much on the terms that we signed up to with the National Lottery.
Perfect. I'm just going through to see if there's any questions that we've missed in the chat.
The
Overhead.
overheads, yep, yep, that's okay. As long as, again, as long as it's, demonstrate that it is related to the project, that is, combating the adverse effects on those groups through COVID. So everything has to, relate back to the funding that the National Lottery have put down as priorities. So again, if it's part of an overhead, it's a proportion of, you're doing something new, and it's a proportion of that overhead, then that should be fine. But again, make sure it's related back to the aims and objectives of the policy. So I would ask people to read through the guidance very, very carefully before you apply, because most of the what you've asked will be there. We have an FAQ as well on the website. So have a look through that, and obviously we will be adding to that as we get more questions asked, which we haven't put the answers up to yet. So please read through the application, please read through the guidance and the FAQs. That should give you a lot of the information that you need. But as I say, if you do anything else, come back to us, and we are hosting some one-to-ones next week.
Yep.
I believe, when you can book those.
We are.
And we can book
Yep.
those online. Well, we can book them through an email, can't you?
That's it.
Through
Yep. If
Blueprint
Mad
for
is
All.
still there, yeah. So that is on Wednesday the 9th. Steve, we've got another question here that someone is asking: can they be assured that National Lottery Community Fund will still welcome separate applications to awards for all and reaching communities for different projects if we apply for this pot? So in other words, if they apply for this pot, will it bar them from being able to apply for other money through the National Lottery? And I understand that this is a very distinct pot, and it wouldn't reflect, as long as it's for different work, different project, it wouldn't impact on ability to apply for other funding from the National Lottery.
No, that's my understanding. This is a very discrete pot. It's got very precise terms and conditions. It's very much targeted at these boroughs, the two boroughs, for particular groups, for a particular purpose.
Yep. Fine. I don't think there's any other questions there at the moment. Just going through, covered overheads.
And I think the email for booking one-to-one sessions has just gone up on the chat. So if anyone wants to see that, it's mhart@blueprintforall.org for the one-to-one sessions. I think we're running two. They are short sessions. They are only 15 minutes. So they are really to discuss your drafts in progress. So please do come along with something that you've already been working on, rather than just trying to pluck some ideas out of thin air. So we really want to spend that time on firming up and working on drafts that you've already got good ideas. You just want some help or advice in one or two areas just to strengthen it. We're not looking to start from scratch in those sessions, because 15 minutes isn't a lot, and we know that there's going to be a very high demand for those slots. So please do as much work. If you are going to plan to come along to one of those slots, please do as much work as you can beforehand.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. I'm just going through. I think we probably have covered all of the questions there. And what we will do is we will draw these questions together and put answers, and we'll include them in our FAQs, just so that we've got a running set of questions and answers there. Now, we've got quite a few people that are indicating that they've got other meetings and they're needing to go. So I think if you have any other questions, it would be great if you could get them up in the chat now, please. We'll just give you another couple of minutes to add any questions.
Yeah, I mean, just the other thing while we're talking is, if you are successful, then there will be some branding requirements. If you are going to be talking about the work that you're doing in conjunction with this funded project, then please mention that it's the National Lottery and Community Links and Blueprint for All. But there will be, if you are successful, there will be some messaging in the letters that you get around that to make sure that that they get the recognition, and there are sort of terms and conditions around the use of the logos and stuff like that. So please look out for that. Okay, Dawn says she couldn't get the
link to the FAQs to work. We'll double check that, Dawn.
Yep.
Thank you.
We will have a look at that.
And the recording will be available. We'll make that available.
Yes, we will.
Yeah. Claire has asked here, can we claim for management costs / time taken to support the project?
Yes. Yeah, that's an overhead. So I think that's not an issue.
Yeah. And again, just it needs to be proportionate, as Steve said earlier. So if people want to donate any goods to our charity shop, there you go. So that's I think that Passion for Helping has given us an email address there if anyone has anything that they would like to any goods that they would like to pass on to the charity shop.
Do you want to put your location as well there, just so people know where you are in Lewisham or Bromley? That would be in case anyone's dropping by. And,
Perfect.
New Cross Road.
New Cross Road. Where will it be made available? By emails or Blueprint site or the community link site? So sorry, is this the application? Tony Ann, is this the application that you want to know? Oh, the recording. We'll have it on both sites. It will be available. We'll add a link in.
Yeah, what we can do, I mean, hopefully we will be able to find all of you who've logged in to today's call, either through looking through Zoom or through your chats. And what we will do following today into this evening's meeting is hopefully we can email you all with the slide pack and hopefully with a link to where you can find the video, and we can give you the link to the various websites where you can find the application form guidance and FAQs as well. So you've got everything in one email. So hopefully we can do that for you.
Perfect. I think then we'll probably wrap that up there, Steve, if that's okay, if you think so.
Yeah, unless anyone's got any last minute queries, but as I say, we are around. You can email us anytime and we'll try and get back to you, or come along to one of the one-to-ones if you've got a project you're already working on, and it'd be really good to see you. So we've got 2 weeks. We're hoping to get lots of good quality projects to have a read through, and hopefully we can have a really big successful grant scheme. So it'd be great if we could.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming along. We hope this has been helpful. We, as Steve said, really look forward to getting your applications and to seeing the impact of the funding in our community. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, and good luck.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Okay.